and drum roll. Oh, do we hear the trumpets? Do we hear the cellos? No, but we see the music director of our Kalamazoo Symphony Orchestra, Julian Kuerti. Glad that you are here, and what a ride you've been on this past year. What was the plan? How did you know?
One of the things that I invented during the pandemic was to put together little groups out of the orchestra and to have them play music that is written for basically one person or a few people to play with each other. These are canons. So basically everybody has the same part, they record the same part, and then I put them together and I end up doing some of the audio and video editing as well. So the first thing that I do is I create something that's called a click track. And so we can listen to that here. It starts like this.
1, 2, 3, go.
So that was me saying 1, 2, 3, go. Why do we need this? You'll see in a minute. The click track then continues, and it's actually really boring. It sounds like this. It's basically a metronome. What I do then is I send this click track to the musicians who are going to be playing in this particular piece. In this case, there were a couple trombones and a tuba. This is a canon by Robert Schumann. That wasn't written for trombones and tuba. It was written for voices, but I transposed it. I thought it worked pretty well. So what they do is then they record their individual parts. So we'll listen here to a little bit of the audio. So you get an idea of how this piece is now coming together in the audio realm.
So moving forward, what is to happen under your leadership, under your directorship?
We have these 5 digital concert hall concerts that we're recording together for live streaming on the internet. When that's finished, we're going to start to populate the entire city of Kalamazoo with little groups, little pop-up groups from the orchestra that might play in your driveway. They might play, in a secluded little nook between 2 buildings. You'll start to hear music all over the place. As the world wakes up, as the spring sets in and the summer starts to come around the corner, we're going to start to be outside. And we're aiming this summer to present a wonderful summer festival of outside orchestral concerts in the Kalamazoo area. And this is something that we're all very much looking forward to, finally being able to perform for a public. If I pull up our principal trombone player, you can see here, you can see him clapping. That's the synchronization clap. And then I put together the video. I can tell the story visually of what's happening in the music. And so this is really, for me, it's been a great creative outlet. I've been able to use my knowledge as a musician to inform the way that I approach the video editing, which is something that I've never done before. I'm completely self-taught, but it's been something that I've really enjoyed doing throughout the pandemic.
Are you working on an upcoming premiere?
Thank you for asking. Our next performance in this digital concert hall series will feature a wonderful young pianist and composer who has written his own piano concerto that he'll be performing with us. Now, in today's world, it's quite rare actually to have a composer who also performs their own music. Back in the time of Mozart or Beethoven, that was the norm. You know, Mozart would write a piano concerto and he would be the one performing it, usually the next week. I wanted to talk to you a bit about this concerto, and I wanted you to tell me, first of all, bring me back to the time when you went to compose it.
Piece actually now was written 2019, early 2020, finished it. I was living at the Aaron Copland House in upstate New York, about an hour north of where I am right now. In Copland's house, where he lived for the last 30 years of his life in Peekskill, New York. A very gorgeous and a real oasis of solitude and calm and serenity. He's got this gorgeous open music studio, which feels like many musical masterpieces have been written in that room. No distractions, no people around. I had them remove the Wi-Fi from the house. That was my doing, just so I could really try to be present where I was to work on this piece. And
so let me get this straight. You were sleeping in Copland's bed and you were playing on his piano when you were writing this piece?
That's right. I was sleeping in his bed, I was making coffee in his kitchen, I was doing ab workouts in his living room, I was scouring through all of his books and his manuscripts. It's an incredible thing that the Aaron Copland Residency Award, it's called, is doing to preserve this house, to not just make it a museum, but to make it an active workspace for living American composers who apply, and they have this rotation system about who lives there during the year, and it's one of the most thrilling things I've ever done.
So Beethoven must have been front and center in your mind, as it was in many performing artists' minds. Right in the middle of the pandemic was his 250th anniversary of his birth. So I expect that you were also working quite intensively with Beethoven at the time.
Definitely. First and foremost, in the structure, it's a 3-movement work. The first movement is largely in a similar sonata form that Beethoven utilizes, and there's a large cadenza for solo piano towards the end of the movement. The second movement is this sort of slow movement, largo, very much inspired by the third piano concerto, pretty directly inspired by Beethoven's third piano concerto, and specifically those long open pedal markings. Beethoven was one of these first composers that specifically marked very careful and specific use of the pedal.
I've known you for such a long time. I've heard you play so many times, and this will be the first time that we actually get to perform together. And I really have to say, I'm looking forward to this like nothing else. So Thank you.
Thank you. Me too.
Support for Kalamazoo Lively Arts is provided by the Irving S. Gilmore Foundation, helping to build and enrich the cultural life of Greater Kalamazoo.